Good afternoon. It's Friday, 18th of December, and I just wanted to record a quick speech. There was a debate in the House last week with regard to the future of the High Street in the UK, and there was a long call list, and unfortunately time ran out and I didn't get to make my speech, so I thought it would be helpful to record it now so that people understand my views and see if maybe it can change some behaviours and make people realise how important things are. So basically, I just wanted to say that high streets have always been an integral part of British society, from providing vital services to being a meeting place for lots of local people. But sadly, the decline of the high street is not any new issue at all, and the COVID-19 pandemic has only worsened pre-existing problems. Now, although high streets have been competing with online retailing for several years, the drastic shift towards online buying throughout the pandemic has had a crippling effect on many businesses. At the beginning of the year, 52% of retail and hospitality businesses were on the cusp of failure, and when you factor in the impact of COVID-19 and the footfall decreasing by almost 90% because of it, high street shops, unfortunately, some of them haven't even stood a chance. This only highlights to me the fundamental need for change, and it seems simple that the main answer is for consumers to shop locally in the high streets as opposed to supporting large corporations. In Delian, we've got CJ's Butchers in Mould, Tony Lovett's Butchers in Flint, and Danny's Family Butchers in Holywell as a few examples of amazing local producers that the area boasts, and I'm certain there are just as many across every constituency in the UK. And research has shown that consumers say that they want to shop locally, with a recent YouGov survey showing that 64% of people want to support local businesses and buy local products. And it seems that whilst the pandemic has been catastrophic for many businesses, it has increased the number of people wanting to shop locally, with 70% of those who have shopped locally saying that they'd continue to do so. But the fundamental issue that high streets are facing isn't lack of investments, but a lack of consumers, despite claims of shopping locally. So hopefully those numbers can turn into footfall and increased support in the near future. According to YouGov, you see, 92% of people say that they want banks on their local high street. But what no one seems to understand is that high street bank closures are due to people not going into their branches and using those services. So it's clear that yes, there does need to be increased investment from schemes like the Targeted Regeneration Investment Programme for Wales and England's Future High Street Fund, as well as reform in other areas. But it's the responsibility of consumers to support their local businesses if they want them to remain open. Now, one town in the constituency, Mould, has come up with the fantastic idea that encourages this support by introducing the Totally Mould voucher scheme. Now, so far they've issued over 7,000 vouchers, £7,000 of vouchers, I should say, that can only be spent in shops in the town. And its success has been significant, with many businesses praising it. It should be an example to councils across the UK who will benefit from implementing comparable schemes. But one area that does need reform is business rates. When I was visiting local businesses in Delian on Small Business Saturday recently, I met with local business owners who found that the coronavirus financial support from the government has been absolutely vital to their survival. With one local business owner who runs a dance studio in Merthyr stated that without the business rate relief package from the Welsh Government, they'd have been in a much more challenging position. Now, as it is, that's only half the story, because that particular business is wrongly charged business rates for being a retail unit just because it's in a building that used to be a shop, despite now being a leisure facility, and it hasn't been reclassified. So clearly the business rates system needs to be a lot more flexible to assess individual situations. But both the business rates relief package in Wales and the business rates holiday in England have been incredibly important for many businesses throughout the pandemic, and this only affirms my point that business rates are outdated and need to be fundamentally reformed to reflect current buying habits. For many non-essential retailers across the UK, returning to the full business rates liability in April is going to be a disastrous situation, with many of them unable to make those obligations. An alternative proposal to reflect the changing consumer buying habits would be to introduce an online sales levy set at 1%, which would raise about £1.5 billion. Now that could fund a cut in retail business rates of around 20%, simultaneously easing the financial strain for high street businesses and also encouraging customers to shop in store as opposed to online. But ultimately, to combat the financial strain for high streets, a cut in business rates would certainly help. But it's the lack of footfall and demand that is the main issue facing high street businesses. So I encourage everyone to support your local high street, as they are vital to so many people's livelihoods. So that was the speech I was due to give last week. I apologise that I didn't get to, but hopefully the message is clear and we can use that to go forward, get out onto our high streets, Mould, Flint, Holywell, Kilkeen, Carewys, anywhere that has local shops, support them, use them, and hopefully we can see less of them being at risk in the future. Thanks a lot.